Hi everyone. I wanted to make something for quite some time. I mean, I've seen patterns of it and everything. What it is actually like a cape, with these slits that you can put your arms through. And it looks like a blunt top triangle where it's got its peak cut off. And it slopes down. And I've seen patterns like this maybe with the wool cloth where people put a binding along all of its seams. And it looks really classy, nice knit work, But of course, that's knit cloth, you see. It's not really either knitted or crocheted. So I've seen patterns, various patterns of people doing this with hand knit items, you see. So, but I haven't seen anything that could be adapted to be used on the loom. Unless, of course, you use a very large loom, you see. So I've been thinking, and finally I came up with this idea where I would divide the whole cape into 4 parts. So it's like a panel, make 4 panels, and when you join the panels, you leave a space for the slit so that your arms can go through, and the front also you leave it open, you see. So you join only the sides and the back with 4 panels. So I came up with this thing because I think you've seen these kind of capes, where the front is open. Here, this part here is open. Hang on, let me see. Okay, this part here is open, and here when you join, you see each panel will be this thing will be one panel here. Okay, and here is where you will have your slits. They're a bit low, because you put your arms through there, those 2 slits there, and so I was thinking, so after some deliberation, I was quite perplexed, you see, because I couldn't really decide where I was how big the neck was going to be, how big the side was going to be. I wasn't really able to tell. So I looked at all these patterns on the internet and looked at some of the old books that my mom had and everything. And I got generally the measurements for one of the capes that they had done. So I have the general measurements, you see, but I have to adapt it to the loom. So what I've done is that I've made a panel. The panel is going to be 5.5 inches, and the bottom is going to be extended all the way to 18 inches. So you can do this on the long loom, the 50 peg loom, but you're going to have to do drastic increases here, because from 5.5 it will go up within 3 inches, it will go up to 10, and then within 8 inches it will go up all the way to 12. And then here you go from 12 it will go all the way up to 16. So each of these panels will have a width of 18 at its widest point. So 18 times by 4 should give you 72. Am I correct? Should give you 72 if I'm not mistaken. 18 and 18 is 36. Yeah, 72. So 72 for the base is going to have a nice flare look to it, you see. But of course, the top part, you have to remember that this part is where your neck is, you see. So after you're finished, we're going to have, because it will be split open here in the front, right? We're going to have some fastener of some kind. We'll decide later. But here, this part here, you'll have to either use single crochet or knit up this bit here by putting it back onto the loom, or you can't really put it back on the loom because, it's, how much will it be? If it's 5.5 times by 4 will be 22. Well, 22 centimeters, inches should be able to go on to the 62 peg loom actually. So if you can go on the 62 peg loom, you'll be able to do a collar for the top. Yeah, I suppose we can do that. So, so we work them panel by panel, and you make 4 panels exactly the same, and then we'll join them up and I'll show you how to work the pattern. So the yarn we'll be using is 2 kinds of yarn. One is very thin. I think this one is between, let me see what it says here, 3 to 4 millimeter crochet hook or knitting needle. It's extremely thin, but because I'm combining it with the brown, and this brown is actually 3.75 to 4.5 millimeter. So together, I think they will give a very nice autumn color look, And so when you work it, you'll have these two colors, and you work each of the panels in these two colors. And we'll come back when I show you how to start. And basically we'll be using twisted stockinette, and you have to, when you do the bottom, see, because you start off from, you can do it either way. You can start from the 18 and then decrease as you go and end with the 5.5, or you can start with the 5.5 and then increase it all the way to 18. But when you reach here, you have to do about 8 rows or 10 rows of garter. That means 1 row of purl, 1 row of knit, so that it doesn't roll. All the bottom bits have to have that, because the top will be doing the collar, and since you'll be doing a collar up top, you won't need to do a garter here, you know, or I mean, and the collar will actually be garter stitch, you see. So you're going to add on this collar up here. Now, for those of you who are unsure about the measurements, what you can do is that you can loosely measure your neck and give a little bit of allowance to it so that it can rest around your collarbone. So while it's resting around your collarbone, take the circumference around your neck, and that will give you the smallest, and then divide that figure by 4, will give you this particular measurement. This one I think will fit anybody because it's 72 inches, which is really rather large. I don't think anybody is wider than that. So you can use this measurement for the bottom. It's where you might have a bit of difficulty is the neck area, you see. So this one, like I said, measure around, rest the tape around your collarbone, measure the circumference, divide it by 4, and you will get this figure here. And then from then on, you can do the increases. Now, the reason why I have increased here, within 3 inches, I increased it to 10, because the cape will be surrounding your upper arms, you see. So it has to be able to encompass your upper arms. So it has to have at least 40 inches to be able to do that. So you have to increase it very quickly from 22 to 40. And to do that, you have to do the increases of the stitches very quickly. And then further down, you have to increase it even more to 48 inches, and lastly to 72 inches. Well, I hope this pattern works. I don't really know whether it's going to be successful because it's, you know, it's still an idea in my head. I haven't really actually worked it out yet. Okay, with regards to the first part of the decreases that you have to do to achieve this incline, you can do, because here I did the calculation 17 stitches over 14 inches and 5 stitches over 8 inches. If you want, you can combine this. 17 and 5 is 22 stitches. 14 and 8 gives you 22 inches. So you can do 22 stitches over 22 inches. That will be 1 stitch per inch. And then for the balance, you do 13 stitches over 3 inches. This will probably simplify this part of the decrease. Okay, while we're doing this panel, just wanted to point out something. Here there is no shaping involved. The shaping is only on one side, you know. So when you make these 4 panels, remember to reverse the shaping for the front. One will be shaped from the right and the other will be shaped from the left side, you know, because one side is not going to be shaped. I may decide to close up all of this and just leave a bit open for you to put your head through and put a fastener there, you know. I haven't really decided. May even add a hood. But what I'm going to do here is that I've done about I'm starting off with the maroon. I've done about 8 rows, 4 rows of pearl and 4 rows of twisted stockinette. After that, I'm going to start the pattern proper and also start the decreases. The thing is going to be split into 2 parts. It's going to be Intarsia. One side will have maroon and the other side is the maroon and brown. So you can decide if you want to do a plain poncho, then you'd use one color. But if you want, you can do what I'm doing. You start off with one color and then you split it into 2 different, so that when you join them up, these 2 parts of the panel will have the same color. the sides will have a different, but the side will match to the back. So you can work it out yourself how you want to have the colors. Mine would be this maroon and brown, which I showed you earlier. Okay, so we'll come back once I have finished one panel so that I can show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you, and then I'll give you instructions on working on the next panel. Okay, I have finished just one panel just to show you what it looks like. You can see the slope here. I have done the Intarsia, combining the maroon with the brown. So this one, the centerpiece will always be the maroon. So when you're working on the loom proper here, if you have to mirror the sides, because here, as you can see, this is the very top bit, the 5.5 inch. After you've done all the decreases, you're left with only one color at one point here. The other color ends, and of course, if you're doing it in one solid color, you will not have this kind of dichotomies. You will not have the thing breaking up like this, But if you are using two colors, and I will show you how to do this Intarsia later, although I do recommend you watching some other video for that part, because the colors being what they are here, it's going to be a bit difficult for you to see exactly how I work the Intarsia. I have the blanket cape, also the one I worked, the jacket that I worked in the tan, and also the one I worked on the Serenity loom. All these patterns I used Intarsia, So if you want a better explanation of Intarsia, if you watch one of those videos, you will have a better idea, because the colors here are extremely dark. Although I will show you how to do the Intarsia on the second panel that I work, I am advising you to watch the other videos, because you might not be able to see very clearly because of the very nature of these colors. They tend to just blur everything in, and you will not be able to see exactly how I'm twisting the thread. I think the best one would probably be either the blanket cape or the tan jacket. Those two are, I think I have shown the Intarsia exactly how you introduce a new color, and also after you have introduced a new color, the subsequent rows, how you twist the colors. And of course, if you are a bit of a coward and you don't want to actually use two colors, then you, by all means, if you don't want to split up the poncho into this kind of a color scheme, then by all means work it in one color. Now, what I wanted to say is that, you see, here I've done the two different colors, and here it's going to be one color. When you do the other part of it, that is, when you do this part of it, you must put the multicolored bit on this side. So you actually have to start, because when you started here, when I started from this side, I went with the maroon, and then I used the two different colors from here to here, you see. But if you're going to have to work it in reverse, this time you have to work the multicolored thread on this side, and then do the decreases on this side. Earlier when I did the decreases, I did them from this side of the loom, and that's how I got this. Because as you can see, the slopes are on opposite side, you see. So when you work on the loom, one side, if you do the decreases from this side, when you want to have a mirror effect, you have to do the decreases from this side the next time round, because the piece that you knit has two sides. One is the right side and one is the wrong side. So you need to have the slopes mirroring each other and the right sides facing up. So one will be in this direction and the other slope will come in this direction. And for you to get that effect, you have to actually do the decreases on opposite sides. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, a tip, if you do the panel, normally what people do is they start from here and then they end here and then they keep going back doing a single panel. But I found out that since I was using 25 pegs for the color change, my Intarsia change was happening on this peg, and here these two pegs were being involved. And as a result of it being a turned corner, I found that working the Intarsia at a corner was very awkward. So I would suggest that you start somewhere in the center. You can mark it with a tape or something, and you go round and come back here, and then you go back again. So you use this as your end peg and this as your first peg, instead of this as your first peg and this as your end peg, so that you don't have to actually do the corners and the intarsia change at an awkward angle at a corner. Well, this is up to you, you know, it's just friendly advice after doing this particular intarsia using the corners, which I found really awkward, you know, because occasionally I wasn't sure whether I was getting the thing correctly, but as you can see, the color change was actually done well. But I don't know whether the back, well, the back also looks okay, you know, but it's up to you, you know. If you think that you can work it at that awkward angle, then you go ahead and keep the thing. But in my honest opinion, I think you should probably do it from somewhere in the center, so that when you do the intarsia, you can twist the thread from somewhere here, you see, so that it's exactly half, you know. So you can mark it with a tape, which you can remove later, you see, so there's no permanent marker on it. So we'll come back and I'll show you how to start the thing. What you need to do is, well, I'm not going to show you step by step, but I'm going to tell you what to do. You cast on using the chain cast on. Then you work 4 rows of purl, 4 rows of knit, alternating the knit and purl to give you a garter of this length. See, it's about this much, the garter. Depending on the texture of your yarn and how thick your yarn is, this particular garter bottom will vary according to that. If you have thick thread, you're making a very thick poncho, then I suggest maybe you reduce it to 3 and 3 so that you don't get such a thick base, you know. And then you work the twisted stockinette and all the way doing the decreases, which I will show you and tell you about in a moment. Okay, now I have going to explain to you exactly how to do the decreases, all right? Now this is my own calculation, these decreases, based on what measurements I have taken, you see, and I explained to you how to take the measurements for your neck, your collarbone measurements, around your shoulders, then your shoulders still, but encompassing your breasts, and then to the very end, how wide it will be towards the bottom. And since we have to do 4 panels, we have to divide all these figures by 4. Now, the main objective of doing a decrease will be for you to have a gradual decline. Or, sorry, in this case, it will be an incline, a gradual incline, you know. So, you need to use calculations, okay? Now, the very first point, you will start with an 18-inch, which is all your 50 pegs. So, whatever yarn you're using, if you're going to use 2 colors like I have, or you're not going to include Intarsia, you're just going to do in 1 solid color, you have to cast 50 pegs. And after you've cast the 50 pegs and done the very first bit, which I explained earlier, which is the garter, this is to prevent the curling, you know, this part, so it stays flat. After you've done that, you will start your first twisted stockinette. The very first row of your first twisted stockinette will come after 1 inch. And this particular part of it is, all of this is your bottom, you know. So 1 panel, the bottom part is 18 inches, which is the width of the 50 peg loom. So at 1 inch, you start your first decrease. You have to reduce 17 stitches over 14 inches. Now, what I did was to make it as gradual as possible. As you can see here, this is the incline. It is pretty gradual, you know. It has like a triangle kind of an incline, you know, so that it's not jarring, you know. You don't suddenly have indentations that go in. So to get that effect, what I did was, the very first 10 inches, I reduced, at every inch, I reduced 1 stitch. It's only on one side. As you can see here, the decreases are only going to be on one side, that is on this side. If you're doing on this side, of course the decreases will be on the other side, you know. But let's talk about the first panel. So you're going to start, you do your decreases on your right. So for every inch after the first garter inch is done, you'd start your first decrease. You do these decreases for 10 inches. So you would have gotten rid of 10 stitches over 10 inches. Now you're left with 7 stitches over 4 more inches, because you have to do 17 stitches over 14 inches. So here what I did was I did them every half inch, and if you do it every half inch, by 13.5 you would be done, because then you will get 17 inches. And then at the 14-inch point, you will now start the second stage of decreases, where you have to do 5 stitches over 8 inches. This one, I basically, I just divided maybe about 1.5 inch. I did 1 stitch like that, sometimes 2 inches, 1.5 like that, until I did 5 stitches over 8 inches. Now the final one, you have to do 13 stitches over 3 inches. Now when you do this, you will come up to about 25 inches, which is the length of the poncho here. It's 25 inches. Try and finish these decreases at the 24.5 point, so that you can cast off and not have any deep indentation. As you will notice here, the one that I've done, I did the final decrease around here, so that a couple of rows I didn't do any decreases, As you can see here, this is the start of the cast off. So these stitches have all been reduced around 2, you see. That's why they're not so gradual, because I had to decrease 2 stitches, and at one point I decreased 3 stitches. Alright? So because I had to decrease 13 stitches over 3 inches, so I had to decrease, what I did was every half inch I decreased 2 stitches, which gave me 12 stitches. So but the final decrease I had to use 3 stitches, which will give me 13, you see, because 2 times 6 is 12, leaving you with 1 stitch still left over. So the final decrease I had to make it 3 stitches. So this is the formula for the decreases. That is, in totality you will be left with 15 pegs once you've reduced all these pegs, because you're doing 17 stitches, 5 stitches, 13 stitches, which comes up to 35 stitches. 35 stitches minus 50 stitches, 50 pegs is 15 pegs left on the loom, which will give you 5.5. This part here should be about 5.5. Alright, now these are all precise measurements which I have done using the loom measurements itself, because my loom can make about 18 inches, the 50 peg loom. If you use the standard loom, that's about how much it is, you see. But if you're going to work it on the Cindy loom, or the Afghan loom, or the Serenity loom, then I suggest you do a swatch. From there you get the measurements of the loom, and then you work the stitches in ratio. That means whatever your measurement for the full pegs, if you need 18 stitches but yours is 65 pegs or something like that, you get 18 inches, then you calculate for 12 inches, 12 times 65 pegs divide by 18, and that's how you get the number of pegs that you will need for 12, and so on. That's how you work a ratio for your stitches depending on your loom. So if your loom gives 18 inches is 65 pegs, for 10 inches it's 10 times by 65 divided by 18. Mine is 50 pegs, you see, because I'm using the 50 peg loom that can give 18 inches. That is this loom, this is quite the common one, the one that is mostly sold, This is the 50 peg loom. This is smaller than the 62 peg loom. The 62 peg loom can work 22 inches. So if you need a wider base, you want I have 37 inches for the base. Well, actually more than that. 18 is 18 and 18 is 36. 36 is 72 actually. 72 and 37 and 37 is actually 74. Okay, it's slightly smaller than 37. It's like less wide than 37 inches. 37 inches will actually give me 74. What I have is a 72. Because 18 and 18 is 32, yes. 18, sorry, it's 36, yeah, 72 inches. So I'm two inches shy of what it should be. So, but if you want, because I felt that 72 inches was enough for me, so I didn't really need a 37-inch width. But if you want a larger width, you can work on the 22-inch loom, which is 62 pegs, you know, instead of 50 pegs. That will give you an 88-inch base, which is really big. All right. And after you've worked these decreases, it should look something like that. Of course, the side will not be completely uniform, you know, as you can see here. See here, this is the side, and this part here is because of the decreases had to be done, sometimes 2 stitches. It looks a bit not so smooth, you know. But if you do them regularly, at least your incline itself will look gradual, you know. And you work that on all the 4 panels. And of course, some of the panels will have to be on opposite sides, the decreases. But what you have to bear in mind, if you intend to use Intarsia like this, 2 colors here and 1 solid color here, you will need to have the front piece with the Intarsia on this side, the color, the double color. The back piece must have a similar part that comes this way with the Intarsia on that side. So you have to work 2 panels with the Intarsia going in this direction, and 2 panels with the Intarsia going on the opposite direction, so that when you join them, the double colored ones will join together, so that your join will not look so disjointed, you know, because if you use this solid color for the back and try and join the solid color to this Intarsia, it wouldn't look very nice, you see. So try and match the double color to the back so that the center pieces always have the solid maroon coming in the center. And like I said earlier, I might be joining it all up and leaving just a space for me to put my head through. And then we will work the neck and perhaps even a hood, depending on whether I have enough yarn left over for that part. Okay, so we'll come back and I will show you how to work the Intarsia. The chain cast on, this is where I've put the mark. So because I explained to you before that I didn't want to do any of the Intarsia on the corners. I hate the way the chain cast on looks on the long loom, you know. On the round loom it looks very nice, but then it really makes no noticeable difference once you're finished, because as you can see here, see the part where the thing was at the center there, you know, the corner. See, there's no lasting effect on the chain cast on, you know, it looks fine. So don't be afraid to do the chain cast on, although it looks like that on the long loom. Okay, after now we start with immediately we will do the first purl. Then after the cast on, you do a purl row, then twisted stocking net, purl, twisted stocking net, purl, twisted stocking net, purl, twisted stocking net. So you do 4 purls and 4 twisted stocking net, and we went like that for 4 rows each. Now the thing is, if you look at this now, here when I did it previously, this one started off exactly the same. After you finish the bottom bit of the garter, then you're supposed to introduce the change of the colors, you see. Now previously this was like this, okay, so the reductions were done on this side, you know, that means from here, because when I did it previously, this was my last peg, you see, so this was my last peg and I did the reductions in this direction. Now I have to mirror it, so the part that I have to reduce has to come from here, the beginning, and not at the end. Now this is here, you see, this is the end bit. I'm not going to do the reductions on this side. So this side has to remain as the maroon because it will be the straight part. This time the reductions will be done in this direction. And because I introduced the color changed after I did the 8 rows, 4 purl and 4 twisted stocking net, I have to do the reductions on this side. So I have to introduce the color now. So as a result of which, because each time you do Intarsia, you have to have a ball for every color change. You cannot use the same ball of thread that you are using for the other one. It's not like Fair Isle where you carry the thread over. So in this case, since I'm using 2 strands, I will have to have 4 balls in all. I'll be working with 4 balls of thread. So right now we're going to have to cut this off and introduce the new color here. So firstly we cut it off, which is actually a pity, you know, because I've only done a few rows and I have to cut it off. And we will take the double color, the brown and the maroon. Okay, put this under. Okay, now we introduce the new color. Okay, put this away and we introduce the new color. You introduce a new color very simply by just making a slip knot. Even if you introduce a color somewhere in the middle, you just put it with a slip knot onto the peg that you introduce the color to. That's how you introduce a new color. Okay, so do a usual slip knot. Now this time we'll be starting previously I introduced the color somewhere in the middle, which was here, because my middle was somewhere here. Now I've changed the position. Since I started from here, my middle will be here, you see. So here we'll have to reintroduce the color that we just cut off. So we put this new color here, the combination of brown and maroon. We put that here, and you work the twisted stocking net like normal. Alright, we've introduced the new color here on the first peg, and we now will work the twisted stocking net. This will be a bit loose, but then it cannot be helped because you just cut the thread off just now. This is a twisted stocking net. Now we work it all the way to the point where we have to introduce the maroon back in. Whenever I look at this thread, I'm never sure whether it's 2 strands or just one, because it can look so fine, you know, the 2 maroon thread, because the maroon thread itself is actually finer than this brown, you see. So it always looks like there's not another color there, you know. Do it for 25 pegs, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So it's exactly opposite the 25th peg. Okay, this is the 25th peg, which is exactly halfway on this loom. And now we have to get ready to introduce the other color. Okay. Now this is the old color. Alright. Now we get ready to introduce back the color that we just removed from the other side, the one that we cut off. We bring it back in. Okay, now we bring it back in. So what we do is we have to do the slip knot back again. Make a slip knot. Now I know this is going to look a bit difficult for you to see because of the colors you see. That's why I suggested that you watch either the tarn jacket, because that one the front used not the back, the front part had Intarsia, and also the blanket cape also had Intarsia on it, and the Serenity Loom cape, you know, the wrap, sorry, not cape, the wrap had Intarsia on the sleeves, not the body, but the sleeves had Intarsia. Okay, now look here. This is where the thread that you just worked on is. Now you have to bring this here, put it across the one that you're going to be using, and you put this on top here first, the new one that you're going to be introducing. Okay, now you take the one that you just left behind and put it across it. All right, so it sits there. Then for the next peg, when you're working it, you make sure that it is going over the thread that you worked on last. So it's going over it, and then you work it on the next point. So this one goes over, and this one. And that's it, you see. Now it's caught up in the thing. Let's have a look. What I mean by caught up. You see, it is caught up here. Can you see that? So it is caught up in the first stitch, which is important, you see, so that you don't create a hole when you change colors. Every time you change colors, make sure that the color that you are introducing goes over and catches the color that you are leaving behind. This is the important part of working in Intarsia. Okay, when I'll finish this row, and when we come back, I'll show you how to twist the threads. Okay, we have just finished this color. Okay, now we're going to introduce the new color. You can see this coming up from here. This is the 25th peg, okay, here. So we're going to introduce a new color onto this peg. You do a adjustable knot and you place it on the first peg for the new color. The color that you're changing to is the double maroon. Okay, just place it there like that. Take the one that you just left behind, the one that you just finished working, place it across this one, across, as you can see, across. Then take the one that you're just working with and bring it over the one that you just ended, the two colors, and work the next stitch. So you work both stitches off, the one that you put the adjustable knot on top and the next peg. So when you do that, what happens is that this gets caught in between, you see. As you can see here, it gets caught in this area. So this will prevent that being a hole in the center. Alright, that's all there is to it. Okay, now we're back here. Now I just want to show you how to twist colors once you've already introduced the thread. Okay, now here we're coming towards the last peg that we're going to be working. This is the last couple of pegs. Okay, 1 and 2. This one didn't get properly. Okay. Alright, now there. Now you've just finished this. Now you have to work back this one, which you left behind earlier because you had switched threads, no? So now you do the same thing. You place the one that you just finished working across, and you make sure that you bring this over the color that you're leaving behind. Always bring it over, and then you work the stitch. See? When you do that, what happens is that, as you can see here, the thread is caught up here. So as you can see here, it is caught up in there, and there will be no holes if you do it like that. Now, I know that because of the colors, it's going to be very difficult for you to see what is being done. That's why I suggested that you look at some of the other videos where I've done these Intarsia stitches for you to better understand how to twist and introduce threads. So when you come back here, when you finish working this particular color, when you come back here, you have to start your decreases. From this direction, you have to start your decreases to get the incline. And so when we finish the panel, all 4 panels, we'll come back. As you can see, this is the back part. Look at how the twisting goes. Alright, this is how you twist the thread for Intarsia. And the front looks like that, you see. It doesn't show you anything in front. It's just a clean, smooth transition from one color combination to the other. So I use 4 balls. Each time you have to have all the 4 out, because there's 2 here, 2 balls here, all separate balls. 2 balls of thread of yarn here, and 1 brown and another maroon here. So altogether 4 balls of yarn. When you work Intarsia, it's like that. You do not carry any of the yarn across. Okay, I have joined the back, and when I looked at the front, as you can see, I've joined it, but the sides I haven't joined yet. And I used mattress stitch to join it so that the join itself is invisible. As you can see, this is actually where the join is, but you can't really see it, you know. You should do that when you are joining these 4 panels. You must use the mattress stitch so that the joining is invisible. Even here also I used it, you know. Although the slopes will probably make it a bit challenging and it won't look as neat as it does here. But the problem is that, to my dismay, I have discovered that the poncho is a little too snug in front. Too much. I didn't give enough allowance, you know, where my bust size part, you know, it looks a bit too tight there, you see. So I'm going to have to add on 2.5 inches on each panel in the front, and I will do it in this combination of yarn, and then I will join up the front, leaving an opening for the neck. And based on how much this part comes up to here, the collar area, I will then decide on the hood, how the width of the hood, you see, will be based on this circumference. When I said that I have to do 2.5 inches, I have to extend the front here. This is the front, you know, this is the join of the back, actually, you can see here. So because of the snugness, I'm going to do a double crochet or single crochet all along for 2.5 inches. I'm sorry that you're going to have to add on a crochet, but if you don't want to do a crochet, what you can do is that if you have a larger loom, then you won't have this problem, you see, because then you can just add on the space and just make each of the panels a little 2.5 inches bigger, you see. But if you are using the long looms, you won't be able to do that. So what you can do is that you can actually do an extra panel in whatever stitch you want, perhaps some fancy stitch, you know. You can even do it in what do you call that, cable or whatever. Do a small about 2.5 inch and then join it along here. Make it the same length as what you have here if you don't want to do the single crochet. I'm just going to use single crochet because for me single crochet is very fast, you see. So I'll be able to extend this to 2.5 inches here and 2.5 inches here in a very quick and in a jiffy, actually, basically. So after that I will join the two sides back again, you know, so that they will come back to a complete poncho. The arms, I forgot to mention earlier when I showed you this thing. After you have joined the sides here, you wear it and just poke your hand through the hole, and that's where you should put your arm slit. You know, you wear it and then measure for yourself where you can poke out your arm slightly so that you get that freedom of movement, but then you are not spoiling the whole look of the garment by lifting it up, you know, with your arms. So don't put it too high. I put it down here, you know. So that's up to you, you know. You wear it and then you mark off where you want your arm slit on the side. Okay? Okay, this part is very, very important. Huh? This is the edge, you know, the one that you had the decreases done, you know, on the twin color. And when you join it, you have to look up, maybe you look up on YouTube on raglan sleeve joining, you know. There is a method that you can use to join raglan sleeves, you know, and this is basically a raglan side, you see. Although it's not a sleeve, it's two sides that have been decreased gradually, you see. And since the sides match in terms of how you have done the decreases, you can join them up in such a way that you pick a stitch on each side, you know. I'll just demonstrate here a little bit, but it's preferable for you to go watch a video on this, you know, because I'm not very good at showing these kind of things, you know. I have horrible instruction procedure, you know, the way that I give instruction sounds terrible. So anyway, there, from here, you see, you go alternate, you know, you go to the other side and you pick up a stitch. The idea is to expose the side of the stitches on both sides so that they come up together. You see how it's here? Look at how it's done. So that it doesn't look ugly, you know, when you work on it. Sorry, the TV is on. Husband's watching Crochet. This is Crochet or something like that. I can't remember the name of the comedian. He's an Italian comedian, you know. So you hear loud laughter in the background. Suddenly it's him laughing. Now there, you see that? Now you've done that. Now you go across and you pick up the stitch here. One stitch, usually when you do knit or the purl, you go through two stitches, you know. But here you only pick one stitch at a time. Then you go over on this side. Try and go in between, you know. So this part shows. Don't know where I can go in. That's the thing, you see, I can't really see where I'm supposed to go. Okay, there. I love this needle, you know. I think it's a lovely needle because it makes it easy for me to work. You see, now you go here, pick up that one. See, and then you pull it slightly. As you work, you see, it's very nice, you know, the stitches kind of like, they look very pretty, you know. Because if you don't do it like this, you'll have a very ugly join, you know. Seriously, because of the way that the decreases are done. So if you don't do a proper join, you will have a very ugly side. I see you've done here. This is where the thread is coming out from. Here, okay. So you go to the one here and pick up that one. There. It's one stitch only. If you do the knit to knit, you will notice you will be picking up 2 stitches. You know, this is a little bit slow, but you don't have really any choice in the matter. Now you pull it slightly, and every time you pull it, you see, it's very smooth. And this is the back. Alright, now continue doing it like that. If you can't really see what I'm doing because of the dark nature of the colors or the fact that I'm such a poor instructor, just look up raglan sleeve joining on YouTube. Let me show you how to do this a bit. You see how well the join is done? This is how it must be, you know. You do it badly, it will ruin the whole look of the garment, you know. So you come here and look for this part here, you know. You see, this is the side of it, no? So every time it will change. You can't pick this. So what you need to do is just put it under one of these, a stitch there, you know. And you come across this side. Here you can, you see, because the idea is to go behind the stitch there. Again, do it behind the stitch here. This time it's actually a bridge. You pick up that one, you go over here, and this one goes under the stitch here. I know it's looking very difficult for you to see what I'm doing, but you know, you will know. If you don't get a good look, just take it out and do it again until you get a more smoother appearance, okay? Just always only picking up one stitch, you know, on one side. See, when you lay it flat, it stays flat and it looks nice. Okay? Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is how the original, what do you call, the pattern that I had drawn originally, you know, with the measurements that I had given, you know. Now, I made a mistake because of the fact that I didn't give enough room here, you see. So I'm having a bit of a... I mean, it closes, but then it stretches the fabric, you see. So I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is that I've decided to work this edging in the double color, because I kind of like this dual color, and I thought it'd be nice to make the hood and the front bands, which I intend to join together here, you know. So once I join together here and I leave a space up here like that, then I can put a fastener here. Then you put the hood up there. So when you take the measurements, maybe you should be a little generous in how much you give this area, because as you can see, I was not able to do the calculation properly. But then when you make it, since you're going to start from scratch, what you do is that you give maybe 3 inches on each side here for the front. But then of course that will give you a problem, because you will not be able to make it on the 18-inch loom. You will have to take the 22-inch long loom if you're working this on a long loom. Of course, if you have one of those bigger looms like the Serenity loom, Cindy Wood loom, or the Afghan loom, you won't really have this problem, you see. So this stitch that I'll be doing here, I think it's called a half double crochet, but I'm not sure offhand what this stitch is called. Actually, I used this stitch on the raglan jacket, and I think I explained it towards the end of that video where I show you how to do the bands, you know, the front bands. And I'll be using that same stitch. I'll do 2.5 to 3 inch here, same thing here, 2.5 to 3 inch. And then I will join these together, so it'll have a solid colored piece coming up all the way here, joined, you know. So it'll be a completely closed poncho up to here. Then you have the neckline and the hood that will come over there, you see. Now as for the pockets here, sorry, not the pocket, the arm slits, when you don't finish this, the reason I say that is because if you were to add a finish of single crochet around this arm slit, what happens is that it will stick out, like this, because it will no longer curl. Right now it's curling in, so when you wear it, if you don't want to put your arms through this arm slit, it will close up nicely, it will look nice. Whereas if it sticks out like that, when the whole the whole garment, when you're wearing it, it'll have this little bump, coming out from here, So try not to finish it, just leave it with the edges of the knit curling, That's my opinion anyway. But if you don't really like that and you want to finish it properly, then go ahead and either use a circular knitting needle and make an edge, or use a crochet hook and do a single crochet edge around it. I seriously think you should just leave it. Okay, the back, since you can actually do this, if you have the larger loom, you can actually do this as a single piece, you don't have to do what I've done. But of course then you will have to do the decreases on both sides, and you have to use Intarsia on, that means you'll have 2 balls of thread here, 2 balls of thread here, 2 balls of thread here, and 2 balls of thread here. If you're going to do this on the longer looms, like the Serenity or the Cindy Wood loom or the Afghan loom, you're going to have to do that. You'll have 8 balls hanging out while you do the Intarsia, So I don't know whether it's really a very good idea for you to do this as a single piece, or just break it up like I have done into panels, And as you can see, the back, you can't really see where I joined it, Alright, so, okay, there's a slight way of seeing where I joined it, Okay, it's not so invisible as I'd like to think. Now I'm going to show you how to do this modified half double crochet. That's the name of the stitch. Now you make a chain and then you start off immediately with this stitch. Now what you do is you yarn over, go through where you're working. I'm working all along the side, the front. Then you take it, I yarn over one more time, pull through that loop, and also the loop that you just created earlier when you yarned over. Then yarn over one more time and go through both loops. Okay, let's do that again. Yarn over, pick up a point, yarn over one more time, go through the loop that you just made, and yarn over and go through both loops. Okay, do that, and when you come to the end, you chain 2 and turn, and keep doing this until you have about 2.5-3 inches. Okay, as you can see, I have managed to do up the front bands that I was telling you about. Now I am well aware that many people don't really actually want to do crochet at all. What you can do is that you can basically do just this part. Measure the amount that you will need from here up to here, and then cast on for 2.5 inches onto the loom, and then you can do whatever stitch you want to do on the loom. You can purl it, or you can garter the stitches here. You can do one row of knit, one row of purl. Then you join it back using the mattress stitch back onto this poncho. Alright? You can do that if you really don't want to do this modified half crochet stitch, Now I'll be joining this back all the way up to here. For the top, here, you see this point here, this is the back half, here. This is the back half. From the back center all the way up to here, put it back onto the loom. Hook back all these. Mind you, when you hook back the stitches, make sure you pick this part of it. Don't pick these stitches, because then you will have all this other bit here. Hang on, let me use something so that you can see. Where is the I took off the thing and I don't know where I put it. There. Alright, see this? I don't know you can see this or not. Let me show you. Now you see this? Let me try to, okay, here, look at this, this, hook this back onto the loom. Each of these stitches, hook it back onto the loom, and you can take the last stitch on the part where I have done the modified half double crochet, I think this is called. You can look up the stitch on YouTube. There's one video on this, but anyway, I've shown it to you how to do it, but just in case, you know. And I always think that when you have a garment like this, you know, you look at it, you've got the twisted stocking net here, you've got the Intarsia coming up here, you've got the garter stitch here, and then you've got this little detail, you know. It gives so much more, I think it makes the garment more interesting when you combine and match different techniques onto a garment, you know, not just sticking to one type of stitch, you know, because I think that even for this part here, you can use the moss stitch, do it onto the loom, and then stick it back onto the poncho, you know, and then join it up all the way so that it's closed up, you know, all the way up to here. It's a closed poncho, you know. Then you hook this back from here, all the way from the center here, all the way, you hook back, and then you work about 12 inches in twisted stocking net. However, the last 3, make sure you purl 3 or 4 stitches, you purl them on the return row here, this part of it, and for on this side, it will be this part of it. So it's on reverse sides, you know, the part where you purl on the return row, so that these edges do not curl when your hood is worn. You know, the hood will not curl at the edges once you put in the 3 or 4 stitches of purl on a return row. That means one row you knit, but the next row when you're going back, the first 4 stitches you purl, and then you do twisted stocking net all the way up to the center here. Once you've done that, you don't even have to join the hood. Or if you feel that you don't want to do that, you can actually do the hood separately and then join it back. But I don't know whether this method is going to work. I'm going to try this because I haven't really seen any videos where they've worked it directly on the loom, you see. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to hook this back onto the loom and then work the twisted stocking net on the loom with the purl for the edges so that the hood does not roll. Well, let's hope it works out nicely. I haven't really actually finished anything, you know. Everything is still, all the yarn is still loose, and I haven't put it all in yet. We'll come back later once the hood is ready. And I suppose that will be I don't know how long that's going to take, but anyway, we'll see when we come back. I forgot to say something. When you hook this back onto the loom, you will have half the hood coming out here and half the hood coming out here once you've done 12 inches. You have to join it back in the center and on top to make the to make the hood. And don't join this until you have finished the hood, you know. Otherwise, you're going to have difficulty hooking this back onto the loom, you know, because you have to open it out and then hook it onto the loom, you know. So don't join the front 2 bands yet until you have finished the hood. I've hooked back, as you can see here, this part right side facing me, wrong side inside, and I've hooked up. But I've only hooked around 22 stitches, you know. I'm supposed to actually have 30 stitches, but it doesn't matter, you know, because if some of the stitches probably have been used up in the joins, you know. And I hooked the last stitch on the front band here. So what you do is you just place a adjustable knot of the new thread that you are going to use to make the hood, and then you continue with your twisted stocking net. Then after you finished one panel, you come back and hook the rest of it for the other side, and then you join the center and the top and you get your hood. Completed the hood. This is the part where I have done the purl, the 4 stitches that I did on return rows. I purled. When I went, I did twisted stocking net, but when I returned, I did a purl. So it gave me a garter edge, as a result of which the hood does not curl. Alright? Now, the parts that you have to join will be this part here and the part that connects to the back of the poncho. All along that part and to the very top. All these bits here, the L bit, you know, this one and this side will be joined. So what you need to do now is to pick up the stitches all along here from the center of the neck and come back up to the first stitch of the crochet and do the second part of the hood, and then join this part of the hood to the other part of the hood. And make sure you reverse the purl that was done here. Now you do the purl on this side. 4 stitches should be purled. That should complete the hood. The most difficult part about putting back a finished piece, or like this one, you know, you have finished the neckline, putting it back onto the loom, the most difficult part will be stretching some of the stitches to go onto the loom, you know. And also, like I pointed out before, that you have to always pick up the outer stitch, you see. If you do not, you will have something like, I've made a mistake here. I can show you one of them that I have inadvertently left and took the outer part. You see here, this is a mistake which I don't intend to correct since I've already done so much of it already. So I've left it. It's just one strand that I made a mistake with, you know. And here, as you can see, I did not make any mistakes, you see. It's a continuous flow from one twisted stocking net to another, you see. So this is the important part of trying to put back the stitches onto the loom, and this is actually rather difficult. You may have to take it out several times until you get the hang of recognizing the outer loop and placing it onto the loom. If you cannot do this and you find that it is really too much of an effort, then don't do the hood like this. Do 2 separate pieces, join them up, make a complete hood, and then you know, my hooded dress, use that as a guide as to how you put a hood on a garment, and put the hood back onto this poncho if you don't want to do it this way and you find that it's far too bothersome. Okay, I think this one, I've done it, the hood, join the top. This part all I just use slip stitch and joined it, you know. You can see at the back, this is done with slip stitch joining. So there's a bit of a, you can see the indentation from the back. And this is the back of my hood. Okay, the hood is complete. And like I said, you know, you can either do it my way by putting back the stitches onto the loom and doing 2 parts, and then join it along here and here, the top. My hood is a bit too long. I went and did around maybe about 14-15 inches, which was a bit too long, no? I think 12 inches is just nice. So my hood is kind of gonna go overlap at the back a bit when I wear it. But you know, you don't have to make it so big. So just make it, if you were to follow what I've done and picked up the stitches here and put it back onto the loom, you only do about 12 inches and that should be enough. Okay, when you do the arm slits, make sure you strengthen the joint here, you know, where you're going to be putting. Make sure you strengthen both the joints here, like I have here. You see, I've strengthened it by passing it several times through, so that when it doesn't threaten to fray and come apart, you know. So you must add extra stitches here to make sure that doesn't happen.